Get ready to experience the Unity Shabbat, a celebration of praise and glory to the Most High Yah, hosted by Congregation Beit D.C.B. Join us on May 25th, 2024 at Shell's Loft, Brooklyn, located at 120 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11231. This event promises a day filled with spiritual upliftment, community unity, and joyful fellowship. Come together with fellow brothers and sisters to honor and worship as we celebrate the divine presence in our lives. For more information and to reserve your spot, contact us at 347-622-9090 or email us at info@baitdcb.org. Don't miss this opportunity to connect, rejoice, and experience the power of unity and faith. Once again, brothers and sisters, experience the beauty of unity and faith at Unity Shabbat, presented by Congregation Beit D.C.B. Join us on May 25th, 2024 at Shell's Loft, Brooklyn, located at 120 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11231. This special day is dedicated to praising the Most High Yah and coming together as a community and worship and celebration. Whether you're seeking spiritual enlightenment or simply looking to connect with like-minded individuals, this event offers an uplifting experience for all. Reserve your spot today by contacting us at 347-622-9090 or emailing us at info@baitdcb.org. Let's gather in unity and embrace the spirit of togetherness as we honor the divine presence in our lives. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom.
By the rivers of Babylon, yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying.
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome once again. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH. We are located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York, giving all glory, honor, and praise to the Most High, King of the universe, Yehudah, for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for all things and everything. And we're here today during almost the end of CHOKMAH, pre-recording this actual video. So hoping that everyone is having a good CHOKMAH, and that everyone is made, whatever resolutions you have made in this new year, or whatever thing that you put within yourself to accomplish, that the Most High God will give you the will and the strength to accomplish it and to finish it. Because, like I was just speaking with Prince, better is the end of a matter than the beginning thereof. Because if you get to the end of the matter and you accomplish and you reach your goals, there's always a reward behind that. So just remember that. Accomplish your goals, accomplish your resolutions, and get to the final method, or to the final, to the end, so that, you could feel better about yourself and you could feel better about those around you and the things that you do. So I'm not going to speak any longer. Giving due respect to the leadership of our congregation, even my brother, Chief Prince Yadiel Ben Yissaskar, who we will be honoring on May 26th, doing a testimonial dinner. So stay tuned for that, and also come out and support. Without any further ado, I'm going to pass it on to one of my mentors and one of my teachers, even Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, let's give praises to the supreme intelligence of the universe, by my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. And the respective platform I'm on, the D.C.B channel platform. The host, spiritually Chief Prince area up in Saskatchewan, to the host, Chief Uzel, to the Princess Chief, Cornine, Rabbini, Maureen, brothers and sisters, visitors to the channel. I greet you in the tongue of my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, and say, and Sameach, Kag Hamaso, and also our early Shabbat Shalom. As first, I like to start off as I usually do. Adonai Sabtadi Taco Fiagi Tila Peka. O Lord, down my lips, and my mouth shall declare thy praise. So I'll be talking this particular Shabbat that just passed is usually sometimes referred to as Shabbat Kol Hamoed, which is the Shabbat that comes in between certain 2 times. We normally run across that, and that's usually a Shabbat that comes in between and the days between the beginning of Chag HaMatzot, Pesach, and before the end of it, and also between Sukkot, the beginning of Sukkot, and Shemini Atzeret. All right. So what we have usually during that particular time is a different Sidra portion that we normally deal with for those particular times on when the Shabbat comes up. And normally we'll be following the next Sidra, which would be Akharei Mot. Some people may have already read Akharei Mot and did it in their various congregations, but traditionally they'll pick up a part of a Sidra from Kitasa for the Shabbat. And they will have a different Torah dealing with that, and they have a different Maktias portion coming with the book of Numbers about the sacrifice that will be done on that particular day. So one of the interesting things I like to address, and going forward, I will try to speak on different holy days that come up well in advance, because really it should be studying on the holy days, or focus really 30 days before, at the minimum, 30 days before it comes there, come up. So a lot of times when they see this video, and since I have a habit of dealing with a review, a lot of times I might speak on certain topics afterwards, because that's usually been my pattern and my tradition. But talking to certain people, I said, well, maybe perhaps I need to speak about certain holy days, appointed times that come up way ahead of time, so that if any questions come up, maybe I can address them. And there's so many different traditions that go on at this particular during those particular times throughout the various congregations. So one of the things I like to focus on before I go into the book and dealing with Chag HaMatzot is the Passover, that we say we normally sometimes we might say Pesach, which becomes the general name for Pesach. But Pesach actually ends that night. Ends during the night, and lasts through the night up to the dawn in the morning, which you have Chag HaMatzot. And that's what they call it, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. All right, so which is the dominant feature, and why the difference is, I was sharing with some people, is that Passover, when we say Pesach, though we're mostly told to observe Chag HaMatzot as opposed to saying observe the Pesach in itself, and that's Pesach become a more of a generic name used for the whole period of time, but it's a short span of time. Pesach is what the Creator did. Chag HaMatzot is more of what we're participating in doing. I mean, because when we say Pesach, what the Creator did is He actually, when you see the blood of the lamb over the on the two side posts and over the lintel of the door, that he suffered not the destroyer to come in in our houses. And he passed by, and he went through the land of Egypt at night, and he slew the firstborns of the Egyptians, both for man and beast. So Passover is actually what the Creator actually did. We didn't do anything for us to Passover, but CHOKMAH is our contribution and appreciation, and therefore we observe that. And this is more what I do, what we do. And so hence the word CHOKMAH tends to be the more of a dominant term that's used. And usually when you read in scriptures, it's mostly talking about observing CHOKMAH. And even though you might find, other spots where they say, they observed the Passover, or then there wasn't such a Passover done when you read about Josiah or you read about Hezekiah. But the turning point, and what Chief Woods brought out is that when you talk about resolutions, and commitments, you have a new beginning, a new start. And when we talk about a new start, is that when the biggest thing about observing and talking about the Exodus is that we learn certain things. We learn, about the 7 days. It took 7 days before we crossed the Yam Suf. After, within that night, counting within that night. Also, we got some, interesting things which I'll share. That also with the night that Pesach occurred is always the same exact night that Tisha B'Av begins on our particular calendar. So whatever, when Pesach comes in, like on a Monday night, Tisha B'Av would be coming in on a Monday night within the 5th month. But what we learned there is that Passover is not so much focused on, remembering and telling the story. Though we're commanded to remember and tell the story, but it's about the experience. We must relive the experience dealing with the Passover, and that's what we must do. We've got to focus on reliving the experience of the Passover. And that's why when we be in our particular locations and observing it, is about the experience. You got to identify as you actually are the people that's actually being redeemed at that particular time. And when we think about, Zaman Kurdothenu, which means season of our freedom. Freedom is, and our concept is not to be able to say, I do what I want. Freedom is to develop all I can be, and that's what the Passover is about. It's not about saying I'm cut loose and do what I want, but to be able to be and develop all I can possibly be. And one of the things that we were supposed to do was to come and worship God. So the purpose of taking us out was to worship out at the Mount Sinai. And that's where we got the Torah from. That's where we got the instructions from. So when we came out of Egypt, our point was for Moses to bring us to this mount to worship and serve the Creator. So therefore, it's important for us to try to constantly relive that experience and not just talk about it, and then not just say it was them people, 3,300 or more plus years ago. It's about, do I see myself and envision myself making that journey, that God came specifically to rescue me out of a situation and brought me to a place where I'm able now to develop myself, to the degree that God will be pleased with me, in the service too. So that's what freedom is. A lot of times when we think about the slavery, when they say the slaves were free, you're free, you're free in America. And when you think about that, say, okay, what do we do when we're free? What was our purpose when we're free? Most of them had no concept of what was free. We had a mission statement from the very beginning of our redemption, where, say, during the American slavery, when the blacks was supposed to be let free, they had no mission statement. They had no special agenda. And the experience that they went through, they definitely, was getting far removed from it as much as possible. So hence the development would be a lot more retarded, means slowed down, because of the objective and aim of talking about you letting the people go from a bad condition, and you just take them out of that bad condition and leave them to their own devices. And that's not so much so with the Passover. And also one thing that's important is that when we start to count the Omer, and counting the Omer is a command, and we had different controversies, where they take it from Leviticus 23rd chapter, when they talk about, the counting after and tomorrow after the Shabbat. But the word Shabbat, as I explained in my earlier videos, not only means the actual day, but the word itself means the rest. And I shared examples with it in the book, from the book of Exodus, where it means rest. So, and we say it every day in those that follow tradition in our prayer. Every Shabbat especially. So when we observe that, so we start our count that what they consider from the 16th of the month, we start counting, but we start our count at night. We don't do the count in the day, and also it's supposed to be a development, and we're anticipating to that point where we reach Mount Sinai, because basically it took us 50 days from the time of Pesach to the time when God gave us the commandments at Mount Sinai. We're talking 50 days in that period of time. Hence we count. So you got 7 weeks, and when we talk about 7 weeks, we count the days and we count the weeks, but it's like anticipating for that great day. And also we develop our character. So they have what they call, which I'm going to speak to on another point in time, maybe, about the different characteristics that they use from Kabbalist literature. And like this week would be Kesef. Sometimes you have Geborah, Tefirah, Nasik. Have those different terms, 7 different terms for the 7 weeks of development in character. So I was touch on that later on in my talk as we go through. So at this time, since the Sidra was coming out of Kitisa, that they spoke on in most congregations, I just want to bring out a few highlights in that. Then I'm going to the Proverbs itself, and this interesting portion of Kitisa, that they actually talk about is around, well, we know it starts a little bit earlier, but I'm going to focus on certain points in Kitisa. And Kitisa starts around the 30th chapter, 11th verse, but I'm not want to focus on those areas there. And we're dealing with the works and stuff like that. And within that particular portion, you have the sin of the golden calf, and you have Moses interceding on our behalf for the sin of the golden calf. And you would say, why would they choose something like this, at this particular time? What relationship can we have between our sin of the golden calf and Moses pleading on our behalf, because of the sin of the golden calf. And one of the things is that God wanted to destroy us. And since he wanted to destroy us himself, and make a nation out of Moses, because of that sin of the golden calf, because we just violated a great commandment in itself and allowed an idol to be worshipped in our midst, that God said he can make a people of him, a Moses. So when we look at that more in depth, when we look at that particular episode there, is that we find that God gave us a new beginning. We read about the 13 attributes that God had enumerated for Moses when he put him in between the cleft of the rock, and covered, had his hand cover him, and then passed by, and he let Moses see part of his glory, his hind parts of his glory, and everything that's enumerated in it, Moses could constantly relate to in history, relationship to mankind. So hence, in a nutshell, God have forgiven us for that. And that's, like I said, a novel thing, that you have a new beginning. So when the Passover comes, we always relate, why did God allow us to be punished, by the Egyptians? Why did we decide to stay there so long? And why is it now that our status from VIP changed to below the servants of servants in Egypt at that time? And yet God brought us out. And we was the least of the nations and the last of the nations of the ancient world. And so when we look at all those things there, we got to constantly develop an attitude of gratitude. And so in this particular portion, we get a new start. And when we got also the second, we got the second set of tablets, which is the first set that we actually had intact for ourselves in this particular portion. But one of the things that's interesting that we might not focus on, we focus on Moses' face beaming when he came down, and we focus on different sacrifices, and we talk about the 3 times, and a year when men supposed to appear within this particular portion of Kitasa. And then they talk about during the feast, but it mentions here the feast of Passover appearing in that particular portion as well. Chok Pesach. But what's really interesting, I find, is that when we look at this particular portion, that Moses, before we built the tabernacle, with all this ambiance, that Moses has set up a meeting where God will communicate with him outside the camp. And you notice it kind of falls behind when a Mezorah, a person that's contacted what we call Sara'at, he's outside the camp because he could be a problem in the camp. Moses had to lead the camp to the outside because the people of the camp was a problem. Even though God forgave him and God communed with him outside the camp, where his minister, Joshua, when Moses wasn't there, he kept guard of that particular tent. So Moses took his own personal tent and moved it outside the camp. And so that's something interesting, coming right behind. We talk about a Mezorah being without the camp and now he's welcomed back in, and he being a problem to the people, where at this point in time, when we look at it now, it seems like a role reversal. The people might be a problem to the individual, such as Moses, where God wanted to commune with Moses outside of the camp until they actually develop the Mishkan itself. So that's something interesting to realize, that it basically took about 5 months before they actually, completed the Mishkan. So that's all I want to bring in that particular area there. And I'm going to go straight to Proverbs, the 29th chapter. And I'm going to bring, before I go into Proverbs, I'd like to speak on the Haftorah. With the Haftorah itself, which I find interesting. The Haftorah was the book of Ezekiel. And in dealing with the book of Ezekiel, it's one of the most popular portions of Ezekiel that's read, pretty much every religion, about the Valley of Dry Bones. And I just want to start a little bit off from the top of the book of Ezekiel, the 37th chapter of the book of Ezekiel. It said, the hand of the Lord was upon me, and the Lord carried me out in his spirit and set me down in the midst of the valley, and it was full of bones. And he caused me to pass by them round about, and behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord God, thou knowest. All right, so now you have these questions. Ezekiel's a priest. And when we think about the individual as a priest, a Kohen, a priest not supposed to be in the gravesite. Now, they don't describe Ezekiel as the high priest, but we know he's a prophet. And this is in the spiritual realm. Now, if you about in the spiritual realm, that means that, it begs the question, do the spirit become unclean or the body become unclean? Or is it both? And if the spirit become unclean, is it a metaphor or is it actuality? So those are some of the things you could, speak on and discuss. And then when Ezekiel goes there, in the spirit, mind you that this is an individual that was taken into Babylon as a hostage among the captives at Babylon. So here it is, when he reaches destination, he's looking back at this valley of bones. So that would be a scary scene. That'd be a scene that's very scary and something that you wonder, why would I be here? And then the Creator asked him a question. Now you serve a God that, when you think about Bilam, say God is not a man that he should repent. Well, son of man that he should, that he should lie. So the Creator is infallible. Though we always have questions about, is he making the right move? People are saying, well, I wonder why God did this, but they don't seem too intelligent from our view. But here it is that this man's there and asked a question. And God don't ask a question because he lacked information. He's looking for participation from the individual. So Ezekiel avoided the question by saying, thou knowest. But then we read about God created the heavens and the earth from nothing. God, exercised his power of the exodus from Egypt over what we refer to as nature. The very elements was working. And yet he said, thou knowest. And then you will say, why didn't the guy such as Ezekiel, who's a prophet, who's a priest, supposed to keep knowledge of the Creator, would not say, if it be thy will, all is possible. We say that today, and most of us don't know the Creator nowhere near the level of Ezekiel knew the Creator. Most of us don't know him on that level. I didn't say all, I said most. So, probably, there's always going to be somebody out there that has a high spiritual awareness. But Ezekiel made that. Now, why did he look at these bones in the valley and think of it as such, hopelessness? And And when man himself was created from dust. And so, forming the dust of the ground, I should say. And so then we get to the 4th verse. I'm just going to read a little bit of that before I go into Proverbs. Then he said unto me, prophesy over these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Thus said the Lord God unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. And I will lay sinew upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am the Lord. All right. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, behold, a commotion, and the bones came together, bone to its bone. And I beheld, and lo, there were sinews upon them, and flesh came upon up, and skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then he said unto me, prophesy unto the breath, which, a lot of times used to grow up here. Prophesy, son of man, and say to the breath, which is the wind, or ruah, which is a little different from Genesis. Thus said the Lord God, come from the 4 winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, an exceedingly great host. Before I go any further, what we find here is that not only, unlike God built man from the inside out, he is basically from the outside in. He covering up, from the outside, building up from the outside. And also, where I said, God breathed, the word they used in Genesis is nishma, which is breath. He breathed into man's nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being, living creature. Where here he's talking about the 4 winds, which is, and he used the term ruach here. So a lot of times people get the ruach and the nishma or the nefesh, or interchangeable, but they all has unique differences, which I'm not going to go into now, but they all have a unique difference. But what we find here is that this is the cause of them bones being in the valley, that they were slain. So it's justified or unjustified. And now this is the vision Ezekiel had, that what caused them to be destroyed. And then if the Creator allowed them to be destroyed, why couldn't he stop them from being destroyed if we take cognizance of building them back up? Hence your question about the Exodus story. Hence your question that you could discuss and relate it to the treatment that the Israelites got from VIP to slaves to being redeemed as a free people. So why did God allow us to go through that process? Could it have been a different way? Could it have been a different manner that he approached that? But these people here are slain, dead in this vision, but they're going to be a revival. And it says, bone to his bone. That means that you must match up with your, what we say, in your position, your lot. In other words, I can't have somebody else's bone on my body. I got to have the bone that belongs to my body on my body. So that means right in there that if you use it in a metaphorical sense, I got to have myself together. So that means I got, I can't talk about I'm gonna put him together. I need to come together myself. I got to actually gather myself together somewhat. So the Creator letting you know, but in the process, there's going to be noise going on, a great noise, because of a great commotion. Because first of all, if you think about waking up, people waking up, you got to have a certain type of understanding about. You ain't gonna have, when you get out of bed early in the morning, a lot of times you gotta sit for a moment, because you lose your balance when you take your first step. You might stretch a little bit. You might stumble. Maybe groggy headed to, wherever it is, to the kitchen or the bathroom, wherever it is, to get yourself together. So there's a people coming out of a deep sleep, and that's the everyday experience. But imagine the people that had to be revived, and talk about a real revival. This was Ezekiel is witnessing in the vision. And you know what? Some people could fall so low that we find in this prophecy, which I'm not going to go through the whole thing, that he identified who the people are. Ezekiel can't even recognize you. Sometimes you could fall so low in your throughout your period of time on this planet. That's why we talk about, are we making a new resolution? Are we going to make not just a new resolution, but a revolution in our life? Because you could fall so low that even the people that's related to you do not even recognize you. That's why the prophet in the vision, I can't identify these bones, but yet it tell you that they was already slain. They already a casualty of a catastrophe. And yet Ezekiel said, I don't see no way this gonna make it. Because he himself, sometimes we judge our conditions and put our conditions on everybody else. We look at from where we stand and say, well, I know my situation ain't that great, so but it's better than his, so I can't see them coming up no better than me, because look where I'm at. So this is some things that it's a lot of lessons to be learned from this particular chapter, other than just looking at the vision of Ezekiel. And also, he said this is done at this particular point in time in this season. And a lot of times when we talk about we have 5 Megillos, before going to the Proverbs, and that's read throughout the year. Now, at this particular time, in the Shabbat, this particular Shabbat that has passed, they read the Song of Songs, the Song of Solomon, and it's usually supposed to be looking like a love song or ballad between a man and a woman. And a lot of times, a lot of the sages was not going to allow it to be in the book because it seemed too provocative, until one of the rabbis, Akiva and stuff, came with a allegorical translation and said it's more than just a man and a woman, love. And this is coming from King Solomon. So if it's coming from King Solomon, it's not just on a local level, but also it's the love between God and Israel. And the thing is about having the heart towards God, having a heart that's revitalized. So this is what we're working on. A lot of times we say, well, and more than getting 11 out your houses, you must get the 11 out your hearts, because it represents spoilage, decay, and also something that have leaven in it get puffed up. So arrogance and pride. So, and from this humble state, sometimes you learn a lot of lessons from this particular chapter, is that you don't look at your condition and say, well, my condition is better than the next guy's condition. Even though I'm a prisoner, I'm not a prisoner on that level. At least I'm alive and that one is dead. At least I'm a captive, but I can't even recognize them. I see it might be hope for me, but I can't see no hope for them. This is some of the stuff that we find in the valley of the dry bones, and as we just, you take it back to your various leaders and teachers and go over this particular portion, you gotta say, well, okay, give me some of the allegories, with a man such as Ezekiel, who talks about the temple, who had all these other visions of God and God working with him in captivity. How is it that he could have access to God in captivity and believe God had forsaken everybody else that's not speaking on the level he's speaking, and that's in the worst condition than him? All right, so this is one of the things. You never count people out. You try to count them in. And all this comes on the back of a Mesorah, when the Kohen himself got to go back out and say he's brought to the Kohen, but the Kohen comes to meet him outside the camp where he put him at, and he got to do more to welcome him in than anybody else in the congregation. So he's isolated from people, just like these dead bones are isolated from people. So you could go, on and on with this particular portion, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm going straight to Proverbs 29th chapter. And you could further discuss it with the teachers and leaders in various congregations. So now Proverbs the 29th chapter, this is actually the last part of the portion of the part of book four that King Hezekiah and them had arranged. And some scholars say this is where Proverbs had ended at the 29th chapter. So the 30th and the 31st chapter of Proverbs, they said that was added sometime later. Well, that's something, you could do your research on and, come up with your own view, come up with a viewpoint of your own. Or discuss it, like I said, with your leaders. But according to most scholars, this ends from the 25th chapter of Proverbs to the 29th chapter of Proverbs. These 4 Proverbs sections is what the King Hezekiah and his people had put together, and the post that ended there. All right, so Proverbs 29.
We're in the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, starting from verse 1. Hallelujah. He that being often reproved harneth his neck shall suddenly be broken, and that without remedy.
Okay, right then and there. So, this is caution, not for the one that also being reproved, not for just the one that's being reproved, but from one that's doing the reproving. Because sometimes, and penology, as they call it, penology, that's the term they use. That's one of my big words for the day. When an individual commit a crime and you just lock him up, let him go. He commit a crime and lock him up and let him go. He's not rehabilitated. That's what it's saying. He's not rehabilitated. You say, well, all I'm going to do is get locked up. I do my little time and come on back out. And as a young guy, I know a lot of young guys that I grew up with, as a young guy back in my time, going to jail sometimes was better than being at home, and they just go in there for a little while and they come on back out, go back to jail, come out, brag about they stay in jail and brag about, what they're trying to do. And they go back to do the same thing. But you got to have a rehabilitation. So it cautions the ones that's reproving that individual. If you just reproving them, but not trying to see how you could help improve them, then all they're gonna do is just cause them to constantly do the same thing over and over and over again. And that's what it's saying. So it's a caution for both the one that's doing wrong and the one, that's constantly reproving, because your reproof is not working and this guy getting strong and wrong. Because it's the way you reprove an individual. You got to look at it and say, well, you're better than that. This is some alternatives that you could do. That's what a reproof is. Not just constantly telling the person what they're doing wrong, but aiding and assist the individual. How can I turn my life around? All right, continue.
Verse 2. When the righteous are increased, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people sigh.
Okay, that's all about government. That's all. That's all about the government and chaos of a society. So that's pretty clear cut. Continue.
Verse 3. Whoso loveth wisdom rejoiceth his father, but he that keepeth company with harlots wasteth his substance.
Okay, right then and there. All right. So one of the things he does, if you love wisdom, father like a child, they can say, this is my son. He's smart. He know this, he know that. He carry himself a certain way. Don't you know? Why do parents go to kids' graduation and their name ain't going on that paper? You know what I mean? And why they be so happy and say, that's my son, that's my daughter? Because of the achievement in a positive light. They are more excited than the child. The child think about all the work he did to get there, and he glad that it's over with. And you're so happy and say and as a parent, and most of your mind say, wow, this is just the beginning of his road to success. That's what you see. He figured, hey, I just finished the finish line. I need to take a break, and most children think that way. But you'd be so happy and proud, and especially if they walk down the aisle, you say, that's my child right there. That's my child right there. You'd be smiling and taking all kind of pictures and everything like that there. So this is one of the things that we talk about. You rejoice, if you have a wise son. But when you talk about when there's a difference, of God to keep the company of harlots, that means right then and there that this individual son here is wasting not only his life, but any future lives, and just dealing with it like that. So that's what it is. And, he's destroying himself and destroying also the future of whatever could come from that relationship. Continue.
Verse 4, it reads, the king by justice establisheth the land, but he that exacteth gifts overthroweth it.
All right. In other words, right in there, he's easy to be bribed. Easy to be bribed. That's all. But a king that that wanted his legacy to last and keep the peace in his land, then he's gonna deal justly. Period. Continue. And most of these proverbs is pretty much repeated over and over.
Verse 5, a man that flattereth his neighbor spreadeth a net for his steps.
That means a man that flatter. When we think about a flatterer, the first thing you think about is, he's not genuine. You can't trust him. All right. He's a manipulative individual. That's a man. And we say man, I mean, could be a woman too that flatter, somebody. But, they just, they're deceitful when they flatter. All right. When you give honor to somebody, that's one thing. Flattery is a different thing altogether, because now when you get honor, you're giving honor for what an individual did that's positive. When you flatter an individual, you really focusing on their ego, and looking at their ambition for self only. All right, continue.
Verse 6, in the transgression of an evil man there is a sneer, but the righteous doth sing and rejoice.
Okay. All right. So, and there's always, if you're gonna build a pit, dig a pit, you're gonna be one for you. Continue.
Verse 7, the righteous taketh knowledge of the course of the poor, the wicked understandeth not knowledge.
Hold on. Where you at? Probably 6.
Verse 7.
All right.
Verse 7 says, the righteous taketh knowledge of the course of the poor, the wicked understandeth not knowledge.
Okay, right there. All right. In other words, you understand how this individual got in this situation. All right. You know what he really want to try to do. That's what the righteous man does. But a wicked man, he don't see any good in that poor individual. And he look at him, it's like, you poor because you're dumb. You're poor because you're an idiot. Or you poor because Creator don't like you. Whatever the case is. So you don't see that at all. Where the righteous man, he started to use empathy. And that's what it's about. And it's, and so he don't look at the poor man because of the person poor and think, hey, you must be a sinner. That's what most people think. That you poor, that's why God don't bless you. You don't have because you ain't living right. And a lot of people, the wicked would think that way, considering a poor individual. You ain't got anything. That's why you don't have anything. Simply because you're wicked. You're ungodly. And that's not the case. Sometimes the poor man is your opportunity to show God that you are godly. And the wicked don't see that at all. Continue.
Verse 8, it reads, Scornful men set a city in a blaze, but wise men turn away wrath.
Okay, keep going.
If a wise man contendeth with a foolish man, whether he be angry or laugh, there will be no rest.
Okay, right then and there. When we look at this the particular verse here, about a wise man contending with with a foolish man. In other words, unless you have the same measuring standard, it'd be a waste of your time to argue. Your value system is different. Your base system is different. So how could I talk with you if we can't at least agree on what the standard going to be in this discussion? And a lot of times when people debate, they usually say, well, this is going to be the topic. That's the standard. This is going to be the topic, and we're going to discuss this topic. I'm going to discuss it from this either negative, and you're going to discuss it positive, but we agree that this is the topic. But a wise man and a fool, we have no base system to talk about, to discuss or anything. So therefore, that's why, it's a waste of time. Continue.
Verse 10. The men of blood hate him that is sincere, and as for the upright, they seek his life.
The 10.
Verse 10. The men of blood hate him that is sincere, and as for the upright, they seek his life.
Okay. All right. That means right in there that people will go out their way. And talk about the wicked man, an upright man, a man sincere, a guy that you can't turn around, the guy that's honorable. The wicked individual want to kill him because, he's causing a problem in their life. And you say, well, if he's sincere and honorable, how is he causing a problem for you? If a righteous man is righteous, how is that individual causing you a problem? And you got to ask yourself and look at those situations, because the sincere individual, perhaps somebody asked him a question concerning you, and he's sincerely say, this is what he know concerning you. And we have this thing where in Leviticus, around the 5th chapter, about if you know about a certain situation and the court calls you to be a bear witness on the situation and you refuse to bear witness, you will cause, a curse upon yourself, because you refuse to give a testimony that could be the true outcome, that could cause the true outcome and a righteous outcome of this particular case. All right, so we can continue.
Verse 11. A fool spendeth all his spirit, but a wise man stilleth it within him. If a ruler hearkeneth to falsehood, all his servants are wicked.
All right, now let's look at the 11. How does fool spendeth all his spirit? He wastes it. You know what I mean? In other words, when they talk about that, that means that I gotta lash out. I can't control myself. I gotta let people really know how I feel. While a wise individual say, I'm gonna chill. This ain't the time or the place. I'm gonna hold this one for a moment, because it will cause more problems if I really let out my inner true feelings. So I'm gonna hold that. I'm gonna refrain myself. So those are some of the things that we learn from that, and the difference between a fool and a wise man. A fool just blurt out because he's ticked. He can't control himself. All right, no discipline. Continue.
It reads, verse 13. The poor man and the oppressor meet together. Yehovah giveth light to the eyes of them both.
Right? You can see each other's condition. That's for sure. You know what I mean? And you can see your position as well. Continue.
It reads, 14. The king that faithfully judgeth the poor, his throne shall be established forever.
Be established. All right. So
The king that, verse
That means,
14, the king that faithfully judges the poor, his throne shall be established forever.
right. That means, let you know right then and there that it's about justice. If you want to, if a king is based dealing with justice right then and there, then God going to support him. Solomon asked for a wise, understanding heart to judge a wise, understanding people. So in other words, he wanted to judge them accordingly to the caliber that is not only righteous, but he's saying that these people that's coming from me for judgment is not a fool. That's what Solomon said. That's what he asked for. Because so it's one thing to say, I just want wisdom, and then everybody else is foolish. But Solomon said, I want understanding to judge a wise and understanding people. So that let you know that he considered the people as not beneath him or unintelligent. And the responsibility lie on me. So they know whether I'm judging right or wrong. They have that kind of intelligence to know what is right and what is wrong. So they come to me for judgment because we might have a subtle issue, on some areas, but which would be the right course of action to take. And that's what it's all about. So a lot of times we do think, because we're in the state of a judge, an authority, that we the only one knows what's right, and not the people before us know what's right or wrong. And that's what we, so you got to be more humble in that kind of, area. Continue. All right. And in society today, corporal punishment. And that's one of the things that a lot of the ancients had less problems with their children. Some people might have took a little bit strong, a little overboard, but they had less problems with the children than most of the children today. And they take away the rights to exercise a certain type of corporal punishment on your children. Then, but yet when your children mess up in society and they institutionalize them in some area, the same authority that you was, relinquished of, they apply to the individual, and that's what's bad. See, in scripture, in ancient times, the child was under the rule and thumb of their parent. And that's the way society, was, more respectful for elders. I know in my time, and most people that's older than me and grew up in my circles, and we know that when your parents cut that butt up, when they come on you and jack you up, for doing something, they didn't have to tell you too many times. If they did, you was physically, taken care of and handled, and don't you know, when they tear you up a few times, you can get too much more than whippings like that. You know, you're gonna avoid a lot of stuff. And even though they used to say, I brought you in the world, I take you out the world. Sometimes some of the whippings you thought you was going out the world. you know, but it made you respect not only your parent to the degree because of the pain, but even when you got bigger and stronger, you start to respect them because you was growing up in a situation, but that's your parent, that's your mama, that's your father, so those areas there, even though, you could be high, be super strong. If anything, when you're coming up and say these guys now with these steroid little boys, young boys, similar like kids, today, they really, really, big, strong. So when the parents be swinging at them, they may block, holding hands, cover up, but they try to protect themselves. They ain't trying to swing back. And sometimes the parents just use their hands. They might hurt their own hand, but the child ain't trying to hurt them. The child trying to protect themselves, but they respect, they have a certain type of respect. And that is what's going today because in my profession, when I was working in this subway system up there, I hear a lot of young kids talking about what they do to their father, what they do to their mom, that the mom said this and say that, and yet they're living in their house. That kind of disrespect. And society, when the kids don't respect them, then you raise up another generation of even less respect. And what you're going to have is chaos. That's one of the things that we talk about in the scriptures in the latter days when people that sat and read the Torah from Michal and talk about Elijah going to come back and turn the heart of the father to the son and and the daughter to the mom, and vice versa. That means family healing and respect, because it's the lack of respect. If you have a lack of respect for your parents, then you can never ever raise a family, ever. And that's one of the things Torah focus on, is saying, look, it starts in their youth. Even in the Passover situation, what we talk about is educating our youth. We're told to teach, and you want the proper individual to ask a question. So the child is already supposed to ask a question. So as the follower Seder said, they talk about 4 questions, but if you ask 1 question, that's enough. You don't have to ask the other 4, but they put the other 4 in there. But if a child asks you, what mean is this? All right, that means you're doing something, So this was all about. All right, continue.
Verse 16. When the wicked are increased, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall gaze upon their fall. Correct thy son, and he will give thee rest. Yea, he will give delight unto thy soul.
Okay, right there. If you correct them, you know what I mean? You ain't got to worry about him. My son know better. I ain't got to worry about that. He know how far to go. I remember once when I was a kid, I was told to be in there a certain time. So I remember that just as clear. And so we and me and my friend, we hanging around, we wasn't on the block. And we were so idiotic. Then to show you how young we was, we must have been like 10, 11, something like that. We hanging around. And so we walking around trying to beg somebody, all kind of stuff we doing this as a kid. We're running around the streets. So we lived in the same building. We come back to the same building. And then we'll go upstairs. I walk my friend, he on the fourth floor, I'm on the first floor. Same apartment building. It's nothing that's gonna be soundproof in the apartment building. So I walk up there because he said, "Wow, we're gonna get in trouble. We're in trouble." So my logic, my reasoning, well, we only gonna get beat one time. How bad could that be? This is my reason. I'm the smart guy. So we goes there, get back to the house, and we coming in about 8:00. And this is like the day's getting a little long, but still was a little dark. And I go upstairs to his apartment first. Now I pass mine. I want to see what happened with him. His mother and my mother's real close. Go upstairs. As soon as the door opened, I'm hiding behind the staircase, down the staircase. Where you been, boy? Bam! As soon as the door opened, So now he on the 4th floor. I'm on the, we had 5 flights. So I go back. I said, man, now all that noise, the whole building gonna know what's going on. So I goes to the first floor. I tap on the door. We got a small apartment, 1 door. Like my brother gonna open the door, let me in. I'm gonna slide up in there. That's how dumb I was, And I still try to come up with a story. She hear him still hollering, still crying up there, getting tore up. And, naturally, I got tore up too. So I'm singing all kind of high notes myself, you know, but I laugh about it now, but it wasn't no laughing matter then, you know what I mean? And I never ever did that again. Never did it again, you know what I mean? But that one whipping, and then the insult, the injury,
You got
the other
scared straight. You got scared
yeah,
straight.
yeah,
That was the
yeah,
origins of scared straight.
yes. And now that the corporal punishment, and then what's even worse, is that the next day, most of the parents that didn't work come downstairs and because it's a nice day. Oh, your mother tore your behind up, huh? And then your friends heard you too. So, because you got apartment building 4 flights, so your friends heard you getting tore up, your parents heard you getting tore up, and their mothers communicate how they tore their kids up. How they actually beat you down.
The play-by-play.
Yeah, so it straightened you out. I mean, I didn't get too many whippings coming up. When I did get them, it was serious, but it never be for the same offense. It'd be something else. And that's what you learn, and this is what Proverbs teach you. Let's finish this up.
That was a good one, Fritz. Verse 18. Where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. A servant will not be corrected by words, for though he understand, there will be no response.
Well, this is why they did so much to us in slavery. You know what I mean? And this is why, corporal punishment is necessary in our way of life. It let you know right then and there. Corporal punishment is necessary. The military does it. Only one they try to take it away from it is the parents raising a child. I hear kids hit their parents. I ain't even seen them actually hit their parents. And say no. And I said, wow, that's something else. All right, continue.
Verse 19 reads, a servant will not be corrected by words, for though he understand, there will be no response.
Keep going.
See if thou a man that is hasty in his words, there is more hope for a fool than for him.
That means right there and there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got to think about before you answer some things. You got to really pay attention to what you're saying. All right. And it says more hope for a fool than for him. All right. Guys that make commitments too quick. All right. Guys that, that rashly open your mouth. All right. And they say, well, there's more hope for a fool than for him. And you say, well, they didn't say this other guy's a fool. The one that's hasty, they didn't say he's a fool. But yet it says more hope for a fool than him. So what is he saying that caused him to get in problems? Because he's not known to be a fool. Continue.
Verse 21, he that delicately bringeth up his servant from a child shall have him become master at the last.
Okay. All right, in other words, you're going to have a Frankenstein monster. That's what that is. A Frankenstein monster. And we all seen the science fiction movie Frankenstein. And he said, I'm your master. And then Frankenstein turned on him and kill him, And, the thing is that you got to have discipline. That's all it's telling you about discipline. Continue.
Verse 22, an angry man stirreth up strife, and a wrathful man aboundeth in transgression. A man's pride shall bring him low, but he that is of a lowly spirit shall attain to honor.
All right, that's all you got to deal with humility. Continue.
Verse 24, whoso is partner with a thief hateth his own soul. He heareth the adjuration and uttereth nothing.
Okay. That means right in there. All right, adjuration like a swearing. Continue.
Verse 25, the fear of man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in Yehovah shall be set up on high.
All right, in other words, they mention this a lot. If we fear God as much as we fear man, we'd be better off. A lot of times we fear man more. Worry about what man say because he's so available to us. And yet he's just finite. He's limited. He ain't going to be here forever. He have ailments and he's subject to the same conditions I'm subject to. But yet we fear man more than we fear the Creator. And that's what the book is bringing out here, this verse. Continue. 25.
Verse 26. Many seek the ruler's favor, but a man's judgment cometh from Yehovah.
Okay. In other words, you can't, just say, look here, I'm gonna do what we call, suck up to an individual in authority. Because if you really is qualified individual, if you really is a good individual, then the Creator gonna put you in a position that you need to be. And that's what we gotta always look at. That the Creator gonna put you in the position that you need to be in. All right, continue.
Verse 27. An unjust man is an abomination to the righteous, and he that is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. Hallelujah.
Okay. All right. That sums it up right there. An unjust man is an abomination to the righteous, and he that's upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. In other words, you can't stand each other. You're on different opposite ends of moral integrity. One is immoral, the other is moral. So, and it's not going to be like the yin and the yang. It's not going to be like that with it interwoven. Either you're going to be on the right side of issues, the wrong side of issues. And that's what it's all about. It's about establishing a good society. That's what Proverbs basically establishes. And like I said, this is like the last part of Proverbs that's dedicated to King Hezekiah. And the reason you read about sucking up to leadership, you read about, because he had counselors. Hezekiah had counselors himself. You read about his counselors, and you read about them putting into certain Proverbs together, and also about a second Passover. But what you find out that he tried to do reformation in the land of Israel at a time when people was worshiping all kind of strange gods. So now, if you're going to make this reformation that was going on before his time, that caused problems, and there's a lot of big people is involved in this here, then he got to get enough people strong enough to support him in this undertaking, and hopefully that God is with him. This is the same man that when that Isaiah went to and said, "Look, get your house in order." And he said, "I kept all the commandments of God." Say, "I ain't ready to leave here yet." Same individual. And then God, sent the prophet, to Isaiah. Send the prophet Isaiah to him, and he said that God, I heard you concerning this. What you would like, you want a sign, and the sign would be whether the sun go 10 degrees forward or 10 degrees backwards. He says it's easy to go forward. He said go backwards. So they got it, 10 degrees backwards on that sign. 15 years added to his life. But he called in a favor because he said, "I kept all your commandments." And then later on, when things happened, he just got his house in order when, after a period of time. But he did a lot of reformation. And so in his society here, and it's the same guy that showed the treasury, the Lord's treasury house to the king, the Babylonians. So when he showed that caused a problem. So when we look at Hezekiah, he was trying to work on a strong administration and do a lot of restoration, try to get closer to the Creator. But he still had a lot of people on the outskirts. And hence, when you look at these several Proverbs, you read about servants, government, more than anything else. And then those people that's in high places, how they corrupt themselves as well. So, and that as a king, he becoming a target because now people are used to acting a certain way. And he said, "No, we ain't doing this anymore." So you're going to have a lot of people in authority. So hence, when we look at the whole situation of the Proverbs from the 25th chapter to the 29th chapter, you find all the problems that existed for a man like King Hezekiah and a few guys that agree with him in authority, and that it wasn't a smooth transition and road. And when we check the history out, it didn't last long. All right, so with that, I hope you got some of what I said. Any mistakes were my own, and everybody enjoyed the rest of CHOKMAH, and constantly count the Omer and try to make an improvement on on the different virtues as we move forward to Matan Torah or Shavuot.
Hallelujah. Torah about Nasik. Thank you for that lesson, and thank you for the wisdom and the understanding that the Most High God has granted you. Please don't forget our Unity Weekend, and all the events that are going to happen during that time. Praying that the Most High God, creator of heaven and earth, be with you all. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom. May Yah bless your soul. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. Get ready to experience the Unity Shabbat Kum, a celebration of praise and glory to the Most High Yah, hosted by Congregation Beit D.C.B. Join us on May 25th, 2024 at Shell's Loft, Brooklyn, located at 120 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11231. This event promises a day filled with spiritual upliftment, community unity, and joyful fellowship. Come together with fellow brothers and sisters to honor and worship as we celebrate the divine presence in our lives. For more information and to reserve your spot, contact us at 347-622-9090 or email us at info@baitdcb.org. Don't miss this opportunity to connect, rejoice, and experience the power of unity and faith. Once again, brothers and sisters, experience the beauty of unity and faith at Unity Shabbat Kum, presented by Congregation Beit D.C.B. Join us on May 25th, 2024 at Shell's Loft, Brooklyn, located at 120 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11231. This special day is dedicated to praising the Most High Yah and coming together as a community and worship and celebration. Whether you're seeking spiritual enlightenment or simply looking to connect with like-minded individuals, this event offers an uplifting experience for all. Reserve your spot today by contacting us at 347-622-9090 or emailing us at info@baitdcb.org. Let's gather in unity and embrace the spirit of togetherness as we honor the divine presence in our lives. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from